Let's take a slow, deep breath. No, really, settle in. In this explainer, we're not just skimming the surface. We're going to completely dismantle everything you think you know about what is refined, what is beautiful, or what makes something high culture. We're diving deep into the groundbreaking framework of sociologist Pierre Bourdieu, specifically his masterwork on distinction. Because here's the harsh reality his theory exposes. Your so-called high taste, it might just be a rigged game, a set of rules written by the true masters of society, designed entirely to keep you in your place.
I want you to allow yourself to sit with an uncomfortable memory for a second. Have you ever stood in front of a completely baffling piece of abstract art, maybe in some stark white-walled gallery, and pretended to get it, just to fit in? Or maybe you claim to absolutely love a punishingly slow, obscure indie film on a date while secretly checking your watch. Picture that moment. People around you are murmuring these profound, whispered observations. And inside, you're just thinking, I have literally no idea what's going on. You feel this deep, obscure sense of inferiority, right? Like you're missing some special organ of understanding that everyone else was just magically born with?
Well, here is the uncompromising truth that Bourdieu's theory presents. It was never about the art. The secret they absolutely do not want you to know is that those feelings of cultural inadequacy, that sinking feeling in your stomach in the gallery, they are not a personal failing on your part. Not at all. They are the calculated, intended result of a highly orchestrated system. A system explicitly built to keep the cultural elite looking down and everyone else constantly, nervously looking up.
Section 1. The myth of good taste.
To really unmask this rigged simulation, we have to look at what Bourdieu calls the charismatic ideology. Now, what is that? It's basically the pervasive lie that society sells you, the false belief that good taste is just this magical, natural gift. It's the idea that true elites are just born with the innate ability to appreciate a minimalist canvas or a mathematically complex symphony. But this ideology completely ignores reality. It completely erases the massive, undeniable role of early domestic conditioning, of generational wealth, and of elite schooling. Society wants you to believe it's magic, but it's actually just the calculated product of a very specific, highly privileged upbringing. Bourdieu breaks this down by contrasting two totally different ways of seeing the world. On the one hand, you have what he calls the pure gaze of the elite. This gaze demands detachment. It demands emotional distance, prioritizing abstract form over any real-world function. Then, on the other hand, you have the popular aesthetic of the working class. This is an approach that demands human involvement. It wants a continuity between art and real life, and it prioritizes function over form. So, when working-class audiences want a logical plot, or they want a relatable happy ending, or just plain emotional engagement, the elite counter that with the pure gaze, an icy, deliberate detachment that looks down on ordinary, messy human passions. So what's the takeaway here? It's that taste is definitely not an organ of understanding you were born without. That icy detachment we just talked about, it is not a biological superiority. Actually, scratch that. It's more like an elective distance from the harsh necessities of the real world. Think about it. When you never ever have to worry about where your next meal is coming from or how you're going to pay rent, you have the luxury to strip away an object's function and just stare at its abstract form. This elite taste is born entirely out of a life of economic ease.
Section 2. Taste classifies the classifier.
Now I want us to slowly unpack this incredibly famous quote. Taste classifies and it classifies the classifier. What does that actually mean for us? Well, the theory posits that every single time you make a distinction, every time you decide this is beautiful, that is ugly, this is distinguished, that is vulgar, you think you are simply judging an object, right? But you're not. You are actually betraying your exact coordinates on the social game board. You're holding up a mirror to your own class position. Let's ground this in reality. Think about the everyday markers of distinction in your life. We're talking musical preferences, maybe avant-garde jazz versus top 40 pop. Dietary habits. Do you prefer a tiny, highly stylized plate of food or a hearty, filling meal? It's in your home decor, your clothing, even the literal posture of your body. These aren't just random quirks. Whether you realize it or not, these choices are the practical operators that translate your hidden class condition into a highly visible, undeniable social hierarchy. So I have to ask you a rather uncomfortable question. Are you really choosing what you like, or is your zip code choosing for you? Let that sink in for a moment. Under this framework, your most intimate, personal preferences, the very things you think make you uniquely you, are largely predetermined by the sheer volume of cultural and economic capital that you inherited. It's a sobering thought, isn't it?
Section 3. Meet the true game masters.
Okay, so if the game is rigged, we need to turn our attention to the architects of this system, the dominant class.
the ones holding the titles of cultural nobility. Bourdieu maps out this incredibly clear cycle of cultural dominance. Step 1. They inherit massive cultural capital completely imperceptibly from birth. Step 2. They maintain total distance from any economic necessity. Step 3. They actively deny and reject all ordinary or easy human enjoyment. And finally, Step 4. They brand this completely arbitrary detachment as the absolute, universal standard of human excellence. The true top-tier game masters you see, they don't nervously chase after good taste. They are the taste. They legitimize their own lifestyle and consecrate it as the unquestionable rule of law.
The theory suggests that this sacred sphere of culture relies on, and I quote, the denial of lower, coarse, vulgar, venal, servile, in a word, natural enjoyment. It's wild when you really look at it. By labeling the easily accessible, warm, emotional joys of the masses as vulgar, the elite are artificially manufacturing this exclusive club. They are affirming their own superiority by proving they can be satisfied with these refined, gratuitous pleasures that are completely closed off to the rest of us.
And here's the real kicker. It isn't even just about what art you buy or consume, it's about how you consume it. Bourdieu compares two types of people here. First, the parvenu, the new money, or the socially climbing middle class. They try so hard. They learn methodically, they rely heavily on educational credentials, and they treat culture with this severe, almost painful earnestness. But then, look at the true aristocratic of culture. They breathe culture naturally. They exhibit a casual, almost careless ease. They value the effortless manner of consumption over the object itself. And that effortless manner? It is the ultimate status symbol, because it is literally impossible to fake if you weren't born into it.
They literally define the rules of the game to ensure you can never win. It's a moving target. As soon as the middle classes figure out how to consume legitimate culture through years of hard work and grueling schooling, what do the elite do? They just move the goalposts. They suddenly shift the highest value to something totally esoteric and avant-garde, or they pivot entirely to casual, ironic consumption. All just to maintain that boundary and keep everyone else out. Section 4. Unmasking symbolic violence.
This relentless moving of the cultural goalposts, it does profound damage. Bourdieu defines this as symbolic violence, and we need to sit with this term for a minute. It is the hidden, deeply insidious process by which the dominant culture imposes its arbitrary values on the middle and lower classes. It forces them into endless internal self-doubt. It makes people internalize their very real social disadvantage as a personal lack of talent or intelligence. We have to call this what it is, a psychological weapon.
And this violence relies on an immense arsenal of exclusion. We're talking about the icy solemnity and grandiose architecture of grand museums, the deliberate, formalist obscurity of high literature, academic tracking in schools that fundamentally damages a child's self-esteem. It is an overarching bourgeois denial of the social world, choosing condescending aestheticism over simple, popular joy. These aren't accidents. They are intentional, highly calibrated mechanisms designed to keep the uninitiated feeling small and perpetually at arm's length.
The most liberating takeaway from this entire sociological framework is this. You do not lack talent. You simply lack a specific upbringing. That deep, burning shame you might have felt in that art gallery we talked about at the beginning, under Bourdieu's lens, that wasn't a personal failure. That was just the system working with terrifying perfection exactly as it was designed to.
Section 5. Escaping the rigged game.
So, how do we respond to this revelation? The answer is simple, but radical. Step off the track. Just stop. Stop exhausting yourself trying to desperately accumulate the cultural currency of an elite system that actively despises the very effort you put in. The harder you try, the more they judge you. So refuse to play. It is an invitation to finally reclaim your own gaze. To firmly reject the notion that a breathtaking sunset, a slightly blurry family photograph, or a ridiculously catchy pop song are somehow less valid or less artful just because they actually perform a human function, just because they bring you immediate, unironic happiness. The popular aesthetic is deeply, beautifully human. Don't let them take that away from you.
Now that you see the strings, now that you understand the mechanics of this theory, and know that the rules were literally written to exclude you, it leaves us with a critical, lasting question to ponder. Who actually decides what is beautiful in your life? Will you continue playing a rigged, historical game designed to classify you as inferior? Or will you finally build an independent inner core, unmask this cultural weapon, and define beauty completely on your own terms? I'll leave you to think on that.